Okay. So you got it there. There we go. There we go. All right. Welcome to. Oh my goodness. Just noticed how loud the mic is there. I might have to tone down my volume a little there, just because hitting some high peaks. I think actually, some of the peaks might be okay for this, just because don't want it to be too docile. Okay. So, welcome to another movie review stream. My name is Mark McPherson, film critic for movieswithmark.com. And it's the end of January. That's a lot of people catching up on the big awards, the big award nominations for the Academy Awards, and we're actually going to be covering the nominations. And later in the stream, I will be covering the nominations and the films that I think should win. Not that I think will win. There's a little speculation on what I think will win, but I'm more interested in what I think should win, and more importantly, I think films that people should check out in certain categories. So if you want to catch up with the Academy Awards, be sure to stick around for the rest of the stream. But until we get to that point, we're going to start off with some reviews, some new films for the week. We're going to talk about Sam Raimi's latest horror film, Send Help. Gonna get some classic Sam Raimi horror in there, and then we're going to talk about another Jason Statham action thriller called Shelter, and we'll be talking about a new historical drama called Magellan that focuses on the Portuguese figure in a much different light, a much more demystification light. So very colorful selection of films here that we're going to be talking about. We got a horror film, we got an action film, and we got a historical epic. So a little bit of everything. So if you'd like to keep up to date with the latest movies that are coming out, because I believe all of these are coming out this weekend. I know that Shelter and Send Help are coming out this weekend, and I think Magellan is expanding more this weekend. I think it's kind of expanding. So all new reviews this week. So if you want to stay up to date on the latest movies, be sure that you're subscribed to this channel so you can keep up to date, especially around award season where we have even more films to cover as well. And if you'd like to support me as well, I have a Patreon which gives you early access to some of the video essays that I've been working on, as well as my movie writings. I'm currently writing some essays on banned books. The latest essay that's up is on All Quiet on the Western Front, one of the best anti-war films ever made. So if you want to catch up on that and also get some books out of the deal, be sure to check out the tiers over there. All right. So without further ado, we will get into the reviews this week because we got a lot to talk about. We got 3 reviews and we've got a whole bunch of Oscar nominations. So let me get my notes up here. Let me get the camera settled here. Also, in case anyone is curious, I am not going to be reviewing the Melania movie. Although I'm not going to review the Melania movie. I did write a little essay about what it's made for. But I will. I did see people saying, "Are you going to watch Iron Lung?" I plan to, not immediately, probably not this weekend, but eventually I will get around to seeing it. So it's one of it's on my radar, but it's not. It's on my radar. It's not off it like Melania's. Let's see. Before we get into that, though, I'll read a little bit of the chat here. So, Just George Ray says, "Thanks for recommending Resurrection. I saw it recently, and it blew my mind. I'm so glad. See, that's the whole point. I'll take this over just because it's gonna screw me up here. See, that's the whole point of why I do these streams and why I do movie reviews and stuff like that. It's that people can get out there and experience films they might not have heard of. Because I think a lot of people will probably have heard through word of mouth everything there is about Send Help, which I'm just kind of going to add to that. But I think a few people might not know about Shelter, and I definitely know a lot of people didn't hear about Magellan. So I'm glad that a lot of people found Resurrection because of my channel, and I mean because other people have been talking about it. People have been through to festivals and stuff like that. So I'm glad more people are checking out films like that, especially such an underrated film that didn't get nominated for any big awards. And it kind of snuck in very, very much at the end of the year. It was in the festival circuit, but screeners didn't come out until much, much later. And I believe I actually watched the film on Christmas Eve. That's how late in the year it was. So, but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed Resurrection. Baval 11 says, but will any of said films beat the powerhouse juggernaut that is Melania? I think the question is how much will Melania not get beaten at the box office? It's designed to to fail because like they really don't care about the box office. Like I said, it's a bargaining chip. It's something made by Amazon so that Bezos can have more labor violations, and so Brett Ratner can greenlight Rush Hour 4. That's the only reason that this film was made. You don't spend $40 million on production and $35 million on marketing for a documentary and expect to get that money back. Documentaries historically do not make money. It's sad, but like it's the truth. Like the only documentary that's cracked above 100 million in recent memory was the Michael Jackson concert film from way back in 2009. And like the biggest performing one from last year was that Led Zeppelin one. It was Becoming Led Zeppelin. $16 million. Documentaries don't make money. You don't spend that much money unless you're really passionate about it or you have some stake in it. You have like an obligation to show some loyalty. So yeah, it shouldn't fool anyone. So if anybody looks at like the marketing for Melania and all that and they're wondering who is this for, it's for the rich people who made it. It's an incentive. That's who it's for. It is absolutely not meant for general audiences. It's pitched that way. It looks that way. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like a money laundering scheme when you kind of think about it. Except it's gonna lose money in the long run. Like you don't blow that like 75 million total on a documentary. That's dumb, All right. But enough inside baseball. Let's actually talk about movies. Not afraid to talk about it. Just addressing it. It's the elephant in the room. It's the elephant in the room we had to address. So we got it. It's addressed, and it's out of here. All right. And so we will delve into Sam Raimi's Send Help. Hang on, let me get some water here. Just clear my throat. Okay. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. So Send Help is the latest film. God, see, you gotta clear your throat here. It screws you up, I'm telling you. All right. Okay, now we are good to go. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. So Send Help is the latest horror film from Sam Raimi, and it's essentially an island survival adventure, but told with Sam Raimi's penchant for gruesome and vulgar horror. Just all the fun hallmarks that you usually expect with his films, with lots of blood, lots of gore, and lots of puke. Just served up, in the gallons and made extra slimy and gross. And I wouldn't have it any other way. That's the type of horror that I like to see from Sam Raimi. And this type of film, and I mean this as kind of like as a pro and a little bit of a con, is that this story feels like it could be an EC comic tale. Like it feels like it could be like a segment of Tales from the Crypt, or snuggled in with like Creepshow, as just like as a short film. And I think that was probably my biggest concern coming into this, because like I like the premise and the idea, but I wondered, how can this work for a feature-length film? It's got to have a little bit more, because like the idea is great. The idea is that you have Rachel McAdams playing this office worker. She works in the planning and strategy department of this big company. She has a fun name too. Her name is Linda Little, and she's been working hard, but she's socially awkward, and she doesn't really. She tries to connect with other people, but she struggles. She's a very awkward person, but she feels like, for all her hard work, she is going to get a promotion. But that promotion is denied by her new CEO, Bradley Preston, played by Dylan O'Brien, who is just one of the most obnoxious, like, rich a-holes that you absolutely despise. You know, he's sexist. He looks down on Linda. He mocks her. He's just a very disgusting and gross guy that you know is not going to give this woman even a raise or let alone a promotion. And then while they're on a flight together, the flight crashes on an island. And as it turns out, because Linda is a big watcher of Survivor, she knows how to survive on an island, use all the resources around her, and not die, while Bradley does not. So the tables kind of turn, and Linda kind of tries to find a way to kind of like adjust to Bradley and try to like outsmart him a bit, because Bradley really doesn't like being the lesser rung here. He doesn't like to have to rely on Linda. He wants to just be like the sexist pig in charge who has everybody else do everything for him, and it's just he's so you want Linda to have that revenge. You want her to go harder on this guy. So that's a fun scenario. I like the idea, and I think it's great how Rachel McAdams plays this up. She's a lot of fun. I love how she kind of like gets very giddy about being in this scenario where it's like yes, like all my skills are gonna come in handy, and I'm gonna be the top dog. And then watching Dylan O'Brien basically destruct in this environment. Now that's a good idea for a short horror story. And I think Raimi, explores enough fun stuff to do with this idea by leaning more towards the madness and the grotesque and the grotesque and the wild twists that can be had with this film. Because, I mean, this is the type of Sam Raimi horror that I think can work if it just keeps finding new inventive stuff to do. Like at one point, Linda goes hunting for a boar so that she can kill it for some meat, and let's just say that the hunt goes and the hunt is just very bloody. It's very gross and violent, and it's just I love how a lot of these scenes are just like they feel like they're elongating for the sake of just more violence and brutality. And and I think that also helps for the runtime as well. I think it keeps the story more interesting and more engaging. It feels like it's kind of like padding out the runtime with a lot of like vomit and blood and guts. but I think it works because it does, it's not like wall to wall grotesquerie here. It's doled out in just the right amounts here, which is just like, a gallon here, a gallon there, and just and play it up that you never get you never get sick of it. You never get like, oh, okay, this is gonna happen again. No, it's all delivered in just the right amount. Like at one point, Linda is trying to save Bradley with CPR, but because she's been poisoned, she is vomiting. So she ends up vomiting on Bradley. A lot, like multiple times while she's trying to save his life. She's just vomiting in his face. And just the dedication to the repetition, I think, is just so great. And like I mentioned with the killing of the board, there's a lot of like screaming and roaring and vomiting of blood, and it just keeps going and going and going. Just to the right amount, like, the rule of thirds, or in this case, I guess it's kind of like fourths for how much vomit gets spewed in this film. But the twists here that they bring about, that they're not all that unexpected. They're a little bit telegraphed here and there, like if you're familiar with these types of stories. But I think it works well because of the performances of Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. I think they really work in this film, and it's fun to just watch them, try to like engage each other in these games of like skill and trying to outwit each other, trying to assault each other, and just losing themselves in this environment, and how they let their guard down and maybe reveal a little bit too much about them. In particular, I thought I would grow tired of Linda. And I felt like the film might go a little too easier. I felt like the film might go a little too easy on Linda because, she's very likable in the beginning. Like there's never a moment where you feel that she has to kind of like prove herself. Like, you want her to succeed. You want to see her, topple Bradley. And she does it pretty early when they get to the island. Like, within like a day or two, she's already like, made her own little shelter. She's already perfecting tools. She's hunting. She's making food. She has basically gone full Swiss Family Robinson on this place. And and I like that, but I'm like, okay, is there anything more to her? And thankfully there is, because the more that Linda likes this environment, the more that she wants to maintain it, the more that she doesn't want to go back to that world where she was looked down, by people like Bradley. She doesn't want that to happen again. So she wants to kind of like preserve this island environment where she can lord over this CEO that used to just, look down and spit on her. And once that happens, you start seeing like this madness unfold where she's trying to, keep Bradley in line, try to hide herself from being rescued, try to, find little areas on the island that she can use for herself, to maintain the lifestyle that she wants. And it's wonderful because, like, for one, you start to like, not like Linda as much, but you do understand her madness. But at the same time, you're also, you also want to root for her to just explode on the CEO, like where you don't even care if she's gone like mad and becoming murderous. Like, you're almost kind of like encouraging that, because I mean, you look at what has happened to this woman, and it's just like you feel for her, and you want her to get her revenge. And I think it's this very like refreshing catharsis within this type of film that I think it works. That even by the time it gets to the end, which just kind of feels like a very abrupt and absurd twist that ends the picture on like this on this darkly comedic yet somewhat happy note, it does feel a bit earned with everything that precedes here. And I think just, Raimi's ability to kind of like read the room on class divide and the obnoxious tech CEO who's just like such a sexist jerk, and that desire for revenge, and that that sensation that you are not enough and that you want to just like strike back. And on that level, I think it works well enough where it can keep this idea going. And it's very much like Linda's worried that she's not going to be able to have more time on this island. And I was kind of worried too. I was like, how much mileage can you get out of this story? And it turns out Raimi can do quite a bit. But like I said, the blood and the puke, that adds a lot to it. That helps. That is, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people are going to be expecting out of a Sam Raimi film, and it's fun. There are some great laugh out moments here of just the most grotesque things that end up happening here. Like, and especially, oh my God, there's some of the fight scenes get pretty vicious. Like, there's some showdowns between Linda and Bradley where it gets pretty foul. I'll just say this. There's one scene involving fingers and eyeballs. And that's all I'll say. I dare not spoil it, because that is such like a wonderful and gross moment that I honestly didn't expect at that point in the film. But it's refreshing to have that kind of like giddy violence that Sam Raimi is known for, and to see it back again on the big screen. So yeah, Send Help. I think it kind of exhausts a little bit of its material towards the end. I feel like it's getting close to getting out of gas as it nears towards its big finale here, where it has the showdown between Linda and Bradley. But for the most part, for the majority of the film, I feel like it has a good pacing. I feel like it tries out enough weird and scary and just vulgar elements that I think work really well to keep it going. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm kind of getting used to the groove here. I think this is kind of working. It's like I wanted to see a little bit more of how much further Linda could go with her manipulation of Bradley, or how much deception there was left in Bradley for trying to get away from Linda and assert his dominance and become as violent as she was. So yeah, there's not much more to say other than just it's another Sam Raimi horror film, and it has a lot of the fun stuff that we've come to expect. Especially the I guess I should mention this too. Like the camera work is wonderful. Like it feels a little bit more. The camera work feels a little bit restrained compared to other Sam Raimi films, but it does have a few of those expected shots. Like when you see there are his, extreme close-ups that he has. Like at one point, Linda has like tuna fish on her mouth that Bradley can't help but notice, and the camera zooms so close into her that if you look at this in like 4K, you could probably make out the type of tuna that she's got on her lips. And there are other scenes like where they focus on like their hands and their eyeballs, where it's like they get so close with the camera here that Raimi might as well just you can pretty much see like their pores and the molecules on like their hands and their faces, and it works because it gets you like very uncomfortably close and disgusted with this scenario, so that you're not too used to the absurdities of like how there's like the plane crash where people get sucked out of the plane and like their bodies like snap apart, or how people get stabbed, or how there's like shocking deaths of like people falling off cliffs, or getting sliced, or even just having like weird nightmares and stuff like that. All this fun stuff that Sam Raimi injects into this film, and I was surprised by how well it worked for this running time. I think Sam Raimi did a really good job at making what could just be a short EC Comics horror story into a feature film that is a lot of fun. There's if you like your horror like very gross and vulgar with extra blood and puke, you're gonna love this film. And thankfully I do. That's the way I prefer my gross out horror. I want it to be that ridiculous. So yeah, Send Help is a lot of fun. It's yeah. So yeah, Send Help is it's another fun Sam Raimi film with extra blood and puke, if that's what you enjoy in your horror films, which I do. So Send Help, it will be in theaters this weekend. Definitely go check it out. Let's see. Read some of the comments here before we get to the next review. Grim Greaves says, any recommendations for documentaries from 2025? Love from Croatia. Yes, the Alabama Solution was a really good one. It's about an investigation inside prisons. That was really good. Oh, actually, my favorite documentary from last year, which probably won't get mentioned, because it was streaming only. It's kind of difficult to kind of recommend stuff that only goes to streaming, but there was a documentary by Questlove called Sly Lives, which is about Sly Stone and the Family Stone. Which, if you're not familiar with this band, which I wasn't really, but if you haven't heard of this band, you have definitely heard their music somewhere. And it's a really good documentary because it actually goes into a lot of interviews with people who were inspired by his music, and they talk about it in a way where it's very digestible. They don't talk about it with just a lot of trying to find like just the right like adverbs and flowery language to put upon it, or even just talking like technicalities. They always like talk about it in a way that someone like who's just like a fresh music student might be able to understand it by just saying, oh, there's this beat that comes in here, and if you listen to this part here, it kind of has this great rhythm to it, and it's just like, and you just like love listening to these people talk about how Sly made this music this effectively, and just like, oh yeah, I can see that. And I think I don't know if it's just like the way that Questlove interviews people, but he really makes that world like come alive. Like, and at this point, like I will watch any documentary directed by Questlove. He did a documentary previously called Summer of Soul, which was about a 1969 concert that went on in New York with many big names. It was recorded, but it wasn't released to the public for many years, and so they showed off the footage, which was great to see. But then they have a lot of interviews from people who were there, people who performed there, people who were inspired by it, and I was fully engrossed with that documentary. I love, and I've never been big on musical documentaries. Like I watched that I mentioned previously, Becoming Led Zeppelin. I saw that last year. It was fine. It was all right, but it felt like every other musical documentary I've seen before. Just it's like, okay, here's the chronology of the band, and here's what they were feeling at the time, and here's what it went into this album, and what went into this concert, and how they went on tour. It's like it's all the same motions. So at this point, I would love to see Questlove just tackle a currently living performer or band. Just because I think he's done great with Sly Stone and Summer of Soul. It's 2 for 2 with him on documentaries. So yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. There is one on it just got nominated for an Academy Award. The man shoot, forget that it's basically about someone who defied Putin. But I did watch that documentary very recently. And it's pretty damn good. So that's one to check out. That's the Academy Award one I check out. But Sly Stone, which I think is streaming on Hulu, is a good one. Let's see. Bava11 says Sam Raimi is enough of a skilled filmmaker who isn't afraid of mixing absurdist humor with his horror that his films are pretty much always fun. Yeah. So I'm sure it's like no surprise for a lot of people. Like the only thing that surprised me is just that he was able to make the idea work for so long, because like the entire, like, after like the plane crash, it's all on the island, and once it gets to the island, I think it actually like picks up, because the characterizations are they're very like blunt, but also like cartoonish too, where it's just like, where there comes a point where you're just like, okay, I get the idea, I know these types of characters. When can we get them into like the situation that's the most exciting? Because it's like, yeah, I know she's not going to get the promotion. I know Dylan O'Brien's going to look down on her. I know he's going to make sexist remarks. I get it. Let's keep going. I kind of wanted some of that more zippy Sam Raimi editing, which isn't as present in the first act. I think it does pick up a bit more in the second act, and by the third act, like it's full on at that point. But yeah, it progressively won me over, and I thought I wasn't. I thought I was just gonna be like, okay, it's not going as hard as it could, it's not going as absurd as it could, and then thankfully it did. I am Zifico 5170 says, "Hey Mark, your videos are awesome. I really enjoy watching them. Hope you're doing well." Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am doing pretty well right now. Thank you. Bava11 says the Alabama Solution was great. Plus, it was co-directed by Charlotte Kaufman, the daughter of Troma's Lloyd Kaufman. Oh, is that the relation? Oh, wow. Yeah, is she? Oh, you're right. Oh my God. I can't believe I didn't make that connection. I just got done watching that new Toxic Avenger film a few weeks ago too. Dr. Eternity 4 and 2 says Mr. Nobody Against Putin. Yep, that's the one. It is a very good documentary. I'll eventually talk about that one later. Yeah, those are some good documentary picks. And I think like I feel like almost I gotta like cover a lot more than that now, just because I did that like Vice's broke video, which I think a lot of people liked. I think a lot of people like the covering of documentaries and smaller films like that, which is why I'm a bit tempted to make a brief video on that Melania essay that I just wrote. I might do it only because it's a very brief thing to do. Like the essay compared to the scripts I write, it's not that long. It could maybe be like a 10-minute video at best. So I think I might do that. I might just a little something to crank out, just because the other scripts I'm working for video essays right now are much longer and take much longer to record as well. Bavalin says Charlotte Kaufman was in many Choma films as a kid. That's right, yeah. I don't know why I didn't make the connection. God, I should have done it. I should have done that. I have the I think. Whoa. Do I have? Yeah, I do. You can't see it in the frame here, but and I swear I'm not doing a bit. Like on the very top shelf of my DVD case over there, there is a stack of Trauma DVDs that I nabbed from a Hollywood Video when they were going under. And I think I have like I think I went in there early and got most of the big ones because I can see like I have War, I have Terra Firmer, I have Returned Class of Nukem High. What else did I have? I have Poultry Guys, but I actually bought that at Best Buy, believe it or not, way back in the day. And I think I have yeah, Toxic Avenger 4, just because 2 and 3 suck ass. I know some people like them, but I don't. So yeah, Terra Firmer. I have War. What was? I think I had one other one up there. Was it yeah, Class of Nukem High? I had Terra Firmer. 4. All right, Tromeo and Juliet. That's the other one. Yep. So yeah, there's so glad I got those because they're like way out of print now. Let's see. Just Correa says, "Did you really see Melania? Lol, you're braver than I did not see Melania. I just want to make that clear. I even put that in the essay. I did not watch it. I couldn't watch it. We did not get critic screeners, which is weird because you know if you want to promote your film and you want people to actually know about it, one of the easiest ways is you provide screener copies. You send out an email saying, hey, do you want to watch this film? We'll send you a link. We'll let you watch it, and then you write about it. And it's weird because like even like the more like conservative places like Daily Wire and Angel Studios, they'll send us links. Even like I mean even the studio itself here, Amazon MGM, they'll send out screener links. They didn't for this. And it's like if you want word of mouth, but of course it's not about word of mouth. They don't really care how well this film does because that's not the point. Movies. K. Jacksana says I've currently seen 100 films released in 2025. Oh my goodness! In only 30 days. That's a record. I'm just like catching up on stuff. I think that's close to that's actually pretty close to like where I am at award season. I think roughly. Yeah, I think roughly in like December it was like about 100. I think for how much I logged. Let's see. Baval 11 says she has the mute kid and she was mute kid in Terra Firmer, and one of the conjoined twins in Romeo and Juliet. Shamedia 327 says just read the Melania essay, really good stuff. Thank you very much. I felt like I should write something on that because there are a few topics that I've wanted to add my 2 cents on that they're very common, but I find that a lot of people really don't add much to them. Like there's a script I've been toying around with about the Sydney Sweeney movie Christie. Just because a lot of people have been talking about that, yeah, like because Sydney Sweeney had like the conservative pivot within her advertising that it negatively affected Christie, and honestly, it really didn't. Like did it help? No, but that wasn't the symptom. Like it was an acting vehicle released in November for award season. And whenever I hear anyone talk about it, they all just talk about how it wasn't a box office draw. It's like it was probably not going to be a box office draw because it's a character vehicle they released really early in November. Now, you do not release a film in November, which is a very busy season, unless you only release a film in November for one of 2 reasons. You either release it because you are very sure that it has the legs to go, to go through like the Thanksgiving season and possibly into Christmas, like with, like Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2, those are guaranteed to make money through the family season. Or the other reason you release film in November is that you want to gain the attention of of people who vote in awards groups. You want to pitch a for your consideration campaign because that's typically around the time when you do that. And that's how Christie was marketed. It was meant to, like saying, oh, look, please look at this and nominate Sydney Sweeney for Best Actress. And it didn't happen. But I don't think it's just because the advertising. Like, this happens all the time. Perfect example. The month before Christie came out, there was a film called Anemone, which had Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis's first performance in about, I think, like 8 years. I think it's a little bit close to a decade. But yeah, Anemone, like Daniel Day-Lewis in a brand new film. An Academy Award-winning director. Great method actor. And in a film directed by his son, no less. You would think, okay, this would be a big draw, and there were advertisements and everything. It cost about the same as Christie, and it made even less than Christie. It cost about $14 million, only made about $1 million. Christie cost $15 million, only made $2 million. So it's not a guarantee that you will make money. And it's like, and a lot of people, like, it's like that weird narrative that gets created with that, because you just know that if Daniel Day-Lewis had did some dumb advertisement like, oh, like, don't support trans people, or ICE is doing stuff, then everybody would look at Anemone and say, oh, Daniel Day-Lewis, he tanked his career, because he shifted to the conservatives. It ruined his movie Anemone. It's like, no, the film was never going to do that well. It was meant to be a vehicle to push for awards, which a lot of, a lot of like films meant to do that try to like sneak in during the holiday season tend not to have like the biggest box office. There are a few surprises for some films that end up being a little bit bigger, like Marty Supreme had a much bigger marketing push behind that, and it did help. It did push that film up way high in the box office. But most other films, like, look at like some of the Best Picture nominations. Like Begonia did all right, didn't do terribly well. The Secret Agent did not do that well at the box office. It did much better than Christie or Anemone, but yeah, it wasn't like a huge success. So like I have problems with how people try to like craft that narrative from, especially when they don't see it. Because that's why I'm kind of crafting that essay, is because I actually did watch the film, and not during the time when it came out. Like, this was like about a month prior when it was coming out in the festival season. So I'm very tempted to make that essay, and I might at some point, because I think it's important to address how these films happen instead of just get the outsider perspective from someone who really doesn't pay attention that much to the box office or trends or even watch movies. Like, 'cause I guarantee you most people who are talking about this film did not watch Christie, and I feel like as someone who did, I kind of want to clear the air. So I went off a little bit there. Let's get some more comments right here. Let's see. Bavala 11 says the Christy Martin story was always going to be a niche film with audiences. Only boxing heads remember Martin, and there's already a documentary about her story. Yeah. Yeah, I think because even like the Smashing Machine was a little bit of a disappointment at the box office as well. And it's not like a huge draw. And if it does have like some better, word of mouth or name recognition for it, a film like that can do decently. A perfect example of this was last year with The Fire Inside. The Fire Inside I thought was actually a great boxing movie. Mostly because it doesn't just focus on the stuff in the ring. It actually provides some decent drama outside of it, and hooks up how life for a boxer is not that easy, how you still do struggle with money and everything like that. It was a more resonant and complete story, I felt, as opposed to Christie, which just felt like a generic by the numbers boxing biopic for a story about a closeted lesbian that really shouldn't be like that. It should have more style than just feeling like, and it's very like off in its tone in a lot of scenes too. So yeah, Pavalin says the Smashing Machine about Mark Kern was the same. Yep. It was based on a well-known in MMA community documentary, but was more about getting The Rock an award. And the thing is, I actually did like the Smashing Machine. I thought it was a very good change of pace for both for Rock and for Benny Safdie. I think it's well shot. I liked some of the character drama. I think it kind of didn't explore as much of the characters around Mark. I would have liked a lot more of that. But for how I was very impressed with. There's a lot of scenes where Dwayne Johnson's back is to the camera, like he's almost kind of like trying to like shun it away, like he's not trying to get in the spotlight, not trying to be the biggest figure. And also Benny Safdie's direction, where he kind of like downplays the boxing scenes by kind of like having overhead shots and juxtaposing it with like jazz and stuff like that. I think a lot of that helped make the film feel like it's trying to tap into something more instead of just recounting events, which is what Christie felt like, unfortunately. Dual 9319 says, "Are you going to review Iron Lung?" Eventually. Eventually, we did not get screeners for it, unfortunately, but I will get around to reviewing it soon. Which is weird. You would think that, if you want to promote, like, I know a lot of people are going to be talking about Iron Lung. I was hoping they'd send us screener copies. I'd love to check it out. I'd much rather check it out than Melania. Let's see. Akazane says, "Your long form videos are always bangers. Congrats." Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for enjoying them. I am working on a few different scripts for a few more videos. Some of them a little bit smaller. Like I said, I might do the Melania essay at some point, because that's going to be kind of brief. But yeah, there's some other essays I'm working on, like stuff with like Second Story and on Second Story, not with her, obviously. And also some more. There's one I'm trying to work on for talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's another essay I'm working on for there was one I was tinkering with on John Stossel. I didn't know if I wanted to explore that or not. I don't know. I didn't think there was enough there, but there's a few more options. I'll let y'all know. There might be a poll coming up soon to decide which one I should go with next. Because I think for sure it'll probably be Second Story next, but then after that I kind of want to. There are, and I want to preface this by saying, like, it's not that I don't have any ideas. I do. It's just a matter of deciding which route to go next, which is what I leave up to you guys. So it's not like, I'm out of ideas. It's just like, okay, which idea should I pull out of the bag this time? And work on a little bit more. Okay. So without further ado, let's get to another review. This time we're reviewing Shelter with Jason Statham. I say that as though it's a surprise, as though we haven't gotten a Jason Statham film every year for the past 2 decades. All right. Here we go with Shelter in 3, 2, 1. So Shelter is the latest film starring Jason Statham in yet again another action thriller. Now, there are kind of like 2 types of action thrillers that I've kind of gotten used to seeing Jason Statham in. There's either the tongue-in-cheek, absurd action films where, you can tell like they're having a little bit of fun, but Jason Statham is, not trying to like put on a smirk and trying too hard for jokes. Like the absurdity, he just kind of leans into it, and that's the kind of stuff I like. Perfect example, that was The Beekeeper. I thought I had a lot of fun with The Beekeeper. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, which was the film he had last year, was A Working Man, in which it was trying to be this sort of it was trying to like embrace like a typical action thriller and try to add in a little bit of absurdity here and there, and it just never found a groove that it just annoyed me the whole time. Like, I really despised that film. So with Shelter, this kind of feels like a film that's right in the middle there, where it's a very stern film. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard for jokes, but it's so serious, and it comes off with this level of pretentiousness that just does it dampens what could have been an interesting film, because I like how the film starts. I like the idea of Jason Statham playing this guy Michael Mason, who lives in isolation in this lighthouse on an island. And he occasionally gets supplies, but he doesn't talk to anyone. He doesn't say much. He just lives alone in solitude with his dog, and just drinks and plays chess with himself. And you can tell, like, there's some dark history with this guy, but it's kept tight-lipped in this very dreary environment as the waves crash up on this lighthouse that really doesn't work that well. I was like, okay, you know what? This actually seems pretty interesting. And then as the story goes along, he saves a girl who delivers supplies to him, and she becomes, you know, her transport is wrecked, and he saves her from the water. And okay, I thought, okay, this is going to be a decent amount of character growth here. This girl is going to end up talking a lot more to Mason, and get him to talk a little bit more about his past. And I thought, okay, that's a great idea. And it's a little bit slow in the beginning. Like the dialogue isn't all that interesting, and it's not really exploring much depth here. But I was like, okay, you know what? If they stay here, and if they just like slowly bring out more of these characters, and they start talking to each other and start you know, working with each other, and you know, just bring out and if they try to like just bring out some more character in Jason Statham, I thought this could be a pretty good film. And then of course, you know, then there could be a bit of action in there as well, but it could build on that. Unfortunately, the movie kind of like it, let's just put it this way. It abandons the lighthouse and then just kind of like falls back into all of the action thriller tropes here. The very dusty cliches, because as it turns out, Michael Mason is a former government assassin who worked for the secret organization called the Black Kites, which was headed up by Bill Nighy, who has kind of just become this disgraced person within the government, and he's trying to wipe off like all the you know, all the loose ends. So he's got to like get rid of Jason Statham. So of course he sends in his activated agents to dispatch him, while another person in the government, played by Naomi Ackie, is trying to uncover this truth. And it's just, it doesn't work. It feels like all the typical action thriller elements here are just kind of like tossed onto the screen, and just hoping that you'll find a film within it. Which is why I think the best way to describe this film is kind of with its title, which is that it doesn't feel like it's trying to be an expression of art. It just feels like they're building a house here. So it's like, okay, we're building an action thriller. So what do? We include car chases, we include shootouts, we have some fight scenes where Jason Statham is fighting off agents and smashing them through walls and windows and doors. And I almost thought there was something there, because like there's one scene where there are so many moments where Jason Statham just goes crashing through like shelves and walls and glass and windows. And I thought it was going to be like a running bit. It's like, man, how much stuff is he going to smash through? And unfortunately, it doesn't go much further than that. And as the film just proceeds, it's just it goes through all the typical hallmarks. I mean, like it's so hard to talk about this film. I mean, like, yeah, like there's some shootouts, there's some fight scenes, and are they competent? Sure. They're not edited as well as I'd like, but they are. There's some decent stunts here. I like the way that there's a car chase where the cars flip around. I love the fights where there's a lot of like stabbing and punching. There's some decent shootouts, but there's rarely a moment where Jason Statham can connect. I mean, there's rarely a moment where Jason Statham can connect with the kid, and as a result, their relationship just feels so artificial that I just did not care when they have to get to that moment where Statham is just like, you know, you don't want my life. I gotta make sure you are safe and protect you, and you know, you have to go off and be safe, and I'm gonna fight this battle on my own. It's just like, and she's like crying like, no, I want to be by your side. It's like, I'm not getting that same sense of sadness and depth, because there wasn't enough time to explore that with these characters. And there should be, because the whole plot of this secret killer group is boring. Like when Bill Nighy talks about it, it's just all the standard cliches are just like, oh, we kept it hidden from the government, and oh, people are tracking down my secrets. And then when Naomi Ackie is tracking it down, she's just kind of like she's just behind the computer the whole film. She's like, oh look, here's this data. Oh man, he's behind this. And Bill Nye's like, oh, I need to work quickly. So he texts with this killer who only the killer who's tracking down Jason Statham. It's just so robotic. Like he doesn't really talk much, and he only communicates through texts, and he has no personality. Where he might as well have been a robot. It would have been more interesting. And I thought, okay, you know what? At least, if the film could at least develop some character or some exciting fight scenes, I could go along with it. But it just doesn't. It just falls back on all the same old stuff. Like, why would you do for the climax? Why would you set it at probably the most tired spot for a shootout in any action thriller, which is a nightclub? There's a scene where he's just wandering through a nightclub with gun in hand, gunning down assassins, and it's not shot in a very unique or stylish way. It's mostly just him making his way through a crowd and then going through back rooms and shooting down a few assassins. And it doesn't really feel like it's embracing much of the techno music or the lighting or the color or the weird stuff you could do with the crowd. Just anything fun. It just feels very too routine, and it shouldn't for this type of material, because it starts off decently. I like the setting the action at the lighthouse, and even the shootouts at the lighthouse and little traps that Jason Statham devised. I thought, okay, this is pretty clever. But this is, he's fighting them off in the first act of the movie. Where's it going to go after this? And then they leave the lighthouse. I'm like, oh no. No, it's just going to be him running from the cops and the government, and the MI6 is going to be tracking him. It's like, oh god, no. So yeah, unfortunately, oh god. I mean, the biggest problem with the nightclub shootout scene is that you're immediately going to think of better films. Like my mind drew back to last year with Ballerina. There's that great scene in a nightclub that involves ice. And it just feels like, why would there be ice there? It's like the reason is it looks cool. And it leads to some pretty exciting fight scenes. There are no fight scenes in Shelter that feel all that exciting. Don't get me wrong, they're nicely shot. And there's some cleverness in some of the early ones. But the more that it goes along, the less creativity it gets. And by the end of the film, it's Jason Statham gunning down Bill Nighy because he knows too much and he tried to kill him. It never feels like it's building much on anything here. It just feels like it's going through the motions. And I want to preface this by saying I'm not opposed to Jason Statham action thrillers. Like I said, I really love the Beekeeper. I thought that was a lot of fun. I want to see another film like that, and unfortunately, I didn't get it with Shelter here. Shelter just feels like another standard paycheck for Jason Statham to make like another action thriller by a director who, it didn't surprise me though. The director of this film, Rick Roman Waugh, used to be a stunt coordinator, and it shows. Like he's very much focused on just making sure that the stunts work. Not that they look all that impressive, just more that they're sufficient, that they get the job done. And they do, but the film doesn't have much more to offer than that. And you can really tell like they put more effort into like staging these fight scenes than ever injecting this film with any more sense of character or an interesting thriller plot beyond just the typical elements. So yeah, Shelter is it's a very routine Jason Statham film, and it really shouldn't have been. Like it had a decent idea from the start, and then it just fell back into all the old dusty, crusty cliches. And yeah, it's a major letdown from Jason Statham. So Shelter will be playing in theaters this weekend if you really want to check it out. Read through some of the chat here. Let's see. Dual 9319 says, I just saw it at the cinema and think it's pretty good. But Shelter? I can see why someone would like it. It's decent. Like I said, the fight scenes are decent, but they weren't like enough to carry it for me. Kajixana says, at the risk of sounding like a shallow edgelord, whenever I look at the state of the country, I'm reminded of that line the comedian says in The Watchmen about the American dream. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like the thing too, is like you kind of almost understand that madness that the comedian has in that story about how he embraced everything that the that America told him, and then it's a lie. It's like, but and I think that's like a very relatable aspect for everyone right now. It's like like all this idea that if you just worked hard and everything would pay off, and then it didn't. I think everyone is feeling that right now. Yeah, that's why Watchmen holds up. Dr. Eternity 4 and 2 says, have you seen that Apple show Invasion? The stuff with the Japanese communication specialist lady is very in line with the classic Silver Age sci-fi novels like Robert Heinlein stuff. I have not, although I need to keep it. I do have access to Apple shows, and there's a lot. I've heard the Foundation is really good, and I'm curious because I actually have read some of the Foundation books. So I'd like to. I think eventually I will get around to it sometime. There's a lot of TV I got to catch up on. Axane says, spoiler, I was going to watch it. Oh, Shelter? I mean, you can still watch it if you just like action. But it doesn't have that much interesting characters or even the absurdity. Something like The Beekeeper. Just it doesn't feel fresh. It just feels like going through the motions of like every action star goes through with like direct-to-video films. I will say this though, if this was a direct-to-video film, it would probably be one of the better ones, because like I said, the fight scenes are decent. It's competently shot. I love how the lighthouse is shot, but once it leaves the lighthouse, like after the first act, it falls apart. It goes on autopilot for the rest of the film. Autopilot where they just rely on like the fights and the car chases to carry the film, and unfortunately they're not good enough to carry it, at least in my eyes. I mean, they're competent. But you need more than competency to make a film wow you. Dalbert Tran says, you heard Darren Aronofsky's AI animated film on this day at 17. Yes, I have seen the footage. I posted about it. It looks horrible. My hope is, and I know it's probably not the case, but I wish like Aronofsky was just doing this as an experiment to see, look how shitty this is, so we probably shouldn't do it. Because it does look like shit. I mean, it's like, you get so used to like AI being about more fantastical stuff, but this is like very basic stuff that you could film with like decent sets and lighting and cameras for just simple stuff of like people talking and having drinks, and it looks off. It does not look like it's working. This is very simple stuff. Hell, you could do this in CGI. Like actually hire animators and it would look better, Thomas, oh my god, this is a long name. Thomas Muanderson, the sorry. 4184 says, Stath has so much potential. He does. And I have, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, Statham, it's a typical Statham action film. What do you expect? It's like, I've seen him in good stuff. I actually really liked him in Wrath of Man. I enjoyed that film. I liked him in The Beekeeper. And he was a lot of fun in The Meg and, what's that? Spy. I thought it was a fantastic use of him, and it's like it almost makes me wish that he would do more comedies. I would love to see him do more action comedies. He does have that very tongue-in-cheek aspect to his character that can make that work, I just realized I didn't turn off the titles while I was saying that. Shamendi 327 says, screwing up the action nightclub scene is unforgivable. Yeah. And it's like, and it's not terrible, but it's like not, it's not exciting. It just, it feels way too standard. Spaceship Manson says, it's Markin time. Am I a Power Ranger now? Is that it? Look out, Rita Repulsa. Dalbert Tran says, 813, Dalbertrand says, yeah, if Ridley Scott can make really impressive battles of Napoleon with a clever mix of practical effects and CGI, why can't Darren Aronofsky do the same with his Revolutionary War film? I think, like, the easiest answer is just he was blinded by the tech and was told by a bunch of people, oh, yeah, this is the wave of the future. You got to embrace it. You know, it's like that really, like, shitty FTX commercial where Larry David plays this grumpy guy who's behind on the times. It's like, don't be like Larry David. You got to invest in FTX, our cryptocurrency, which is for our company that's going to go bankrupt and you won't be able to get your money back. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm probably blinded by the tech. Just sad. You know, there's some competent animators out there you could hire. They could do a much better job. In fact, I would like to see some animators do that on a dare, just to like take the trailer that came out and animate it themselves in CGI, just as like a big fu to AI, saying like, look how much better we made this. Look how much more competent. Look how much more interesting. Look how much more believable this type of animation is than this crappy AI. Because it wouldn't be that hard. Somebody boot up Blender and like make it happen, you know? All right, we got one more review, and then we're going to get to the Oscar nominations. This one will be a little bit of a quick one here. Oh, I gotta change the screen here. There we go. All right, here's a review of Magellan from director Lav Diaz. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. So Magellan is a historical drama directed by Lav Diaz about the famous Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan. And, you know, I think I think one way the way to go into this film is to embrace the demystification of history. Because I feel like that's what Diaz was really going for with this film, is that he wants to showcase a draining, not like an epic adventure, but like this draining sensation of colonialism and imperialism, and how easily like a myth can be spun from this type of material. And if you go into the film with that in mind, I think it actually becomes a very interesting picture. Because I think that has to be said, because this is a very slow-paced film. And when I say that, I mean like the camera will just linger on scenes much longer than they should. But I felt like, you know, the more that the film went along, I thought, okay, you know, actually that is a smart choice, because it is trying to evoke the most realism from these scenes and not make it feel like a grand spectacle of adventure where you fully like Magellan, or you fully embrace the spiritual mindset of the natives that were invaded by Magellan and his crew. The film really does want you to see Magellan as this very like flawed and egotistical man who, you know, whose ambition ultimately ends up being his undoing. And it's portrayed in a manner where I feel like Lav Diaz is really trying to drain as much like beauty from that story as possible. Because there are scenes where Magellan here, played by Gael Garcia Bernal, is at sea, and he suspects a mutiny, and so he tries to squash any attempt or any mention of his men turning against him. And it's not treated in like this overly dramatic, where, you know, like the orchestra swells and we get these sweeping shots of like the ship and close-ups of the violence. No, it's treated in this very almost kind of like matter-of-fact way, where like there is no soundtrack, there is no there's a little bit of like internal dialogue, but not as much of it. It's just holding on like this uncomfortable quiet that just like that makes the scene so uncomfortable, but also very understandable. There are a lot of scenes where like they're just like lingering on his men starving and just looking off at sea and just being bored and just growing disillusioned with what they're trying to do. And I think what helps make you see that grotesque side of Magellan is just how accepting he is of wanting to assert himself. Like, because at one point early in the film, when he's talking with somebody else who is just looking at everything that that the Portuguese are doing and saying, like, look, what we're doing is greedy and it's evil, and we're we're trying to like spread like Christianity and all this, but what are we doing? We're feeding ourselves, we're gorging, we're becoming like greedy pigs. And Magellan is just like, dude, shut up. This is what we do. I don't care. I don't care if you think we're doing something unethical. We're doing that because that's all we know how to do, basically. So you really despise this guy, and the more that it goes along, you're just sort of like hanging back and watching this kind of unfold almost from like a distance, because there are a lot of like long shots, and especially like there isn't a lot of excitement in the film either, especially for a film where there are a lot of battles. And deaths and corpses on the battlefield. You don't get to see a lot of that carnage. You mostly get to see battles like, from a distance, like in big wide shots. And you mostly just get like more like the closer shots when you're looking at the aftermath. You're just looking at the bodies. And it's not like treated with like this somber nature. It's like the camera's just holding there. You might hear like the waves crashing on the beach, but the bodies are just there. And people are milling about trying to figure out, who's alive, how did this happen? What went wrong? And you're just sitting there stewing with all like the death and destruction around you. And I think like I said, you have to go into this film wanting it to, just drain history of all that colorful energy and excitement and just make it, drab and dreary and make Magellan look like an a-hole. And understanding like the perspective of the natives in a way that isn't trying to judge them too harshly. Now, one aspect of the film, the most controversial aspect, I think, for a lot of people, is going to be that there is a myth that they do insert into this film that has kind of been disputed, where the chieftain of the tribe basically wants to fight back against Magellan by coming up with the story of what's the name, Lapu Lapu. And the thing is, like, Lapu Lapu actually is a real person based on a lot of historical accounts. It's been a little bit disputed here and there, but it very much was a real person who led his tribe into battle. But here, Lav Diaz takes like some historical liberties by turning Lapu Lapu into a myth. Like it's a made up figure made by the natives to kind of like strike back at Magellan. And it's a controversial choice because I think a lot of historians are going to dispute this. And, tons of people are probably going to be angry at the film for that. But I actually kind of like it as a way, because the whole point of the film is trying to demystify Magellan and trying to, and I think adding that element kind of showcases how a myth can become so easily embraced, and almost kind of like, it almost kind of feels like Lav Diaz is tossing the ball for myth making back to the natives, saying like, okay, everyone's made up that Magellan was this great explorer. What would the natives do? What if they made up their own myth about a great figure that was going to strike back? And I honestly think it kind of works, because it did make me kind of a little bit more intrigued about like how there's this mind game going on of trying to like tap into like the spirituality here. There are some more supernatural choices here made. Like at one point, actually at a few points, Magellan is kind of like hallucinating the ghost of his wife back home. And but I do like how they treat her, because she's not treated as like this comforting figure. She's almost kind of like a background character who's just kind of like there, like her spirit is there, but she offers like no words of comfort, no guidance. She's just kind of like there off to the side, almost as kind of like a demystification of like ghosts to some degree. But I think it really works. Like it again, very slow pace, like over 2.5 hours. And you are mostly lingering on a lot of scenes where there isn't too much dialogue. But it's very in that meditative nature for trying to explore the nature of imperialism and how easily people are manipulated through their spirituality. I think the film actually does a pretty good job of trying to showcase a darker side of history and how easily it can be manipulated by those who are writing the rules. So a little bit of a controversial film for being slow paced and toying with history, but for the most part, I think it really works in becoming this kind of very simmering, meditative film about what it means to invade other lands and to consider your spirituality, and most importantly, to craft a myth around history. So for tapping into all these elements instead of just being like a perfect recount of history, I actually really admired Lavdia's take on Magellan. So yeah, this was a pretty damn good historical epic that doesn't try to make history more exciting. If anything, this is an anti-exciting historical drama. It doesn't try to make this, an adventure film on the high seas where you're exploring native lands, and it's, and it kind of becomes like a very exciting adventure. It's not. It is. You are meant to like see this as a very draining experience that taps into something deep and meditative. So yeah, I really enjoyed Magellan. So Magellan should be playing in a few theaters come this weekend. Art Scott says, no Milani review. Nope. They did not send us screeners for it. We did not get a preview for it. Probably not going to review it. Which is sad because every other studio usually sends out screeners. GNA Walker in 1992 says, "May Catherine O'Hara's soul be at peace." Yeah, I saw that. For those who are just learning for the first time, yes, Catherine O'Hara, star of Home Alone 2, and Schitt's Creek, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 71, I believe. So, yeah, unfortunate, very unfortunate. Yeah, what a talent! Oh my god, man, and she's been acting on like a lot of stuff recently. I think she was in the was she in the John Candy documentary I Like Me? I think I think they at least addressed her. But yeah, I'm sure most people know her last year from her Beetlejuice sequel. So let's see. Daltran says, we already read that. Ridley Scott. Okay, so we are going to try something. Well, I've kind of done this off and on a few years, but I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at the Oscar nominations. They've been announced for a little bit now, and I thought we'd take a look at them, if I can remember which tab I put them in. Was it this one? No, it wasn't that one. Was it this one? Ah, there we go. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go through the nominations, and I'm going to tell you which film should win the award. Not which one will win. I will make a little bit of a speculation here about what will win, but don't quote me on that. I'm mostly going to be focusing on what I personally think should win. So we're going to cover a few of this on stream here. And then once the Oscar ceremonies happen in March, I will be live on stream discussing it. And we'll probably use the same graphics here as well to talk about it, which will be a lot of fun. It's fun to just hang out and just watch the Oscars and talk some shit. I'll probably invite some people on here now that I've kind of been talking to a few more people online, doing some collabs and stuff like that. So there will be some more people there. We'll have like kind of a big Oscar discussion for anyone who wants to join in. So let's get to the Oscar nominations. So first up, we have Best Visual Effects. And the nominations are Avatar Fire and Ash, F1, Jurassic World Rebirth, The Lost Bus, and Sinners. I think probably the most likely candidate here is probably going to be Avatar Fire and Ash. And I would kind of agree. Like I'm very close to like recommending Sinners just because I thought they did a fantastic job on that. But I'm kind of just leaning more towards the Avatar Fire and Ash because the visual effects had to work in that film, and they do an effective job. And for someone who's very lukewarm on the film, I will admit the visual effects still look good. And this is a category where you really do have to be critical. You really do kind of have to like look past just the films you like to see like which ones actually have more competent visual effects. Because, like I said, Jurassic World Rebirth, the only like the only Oscar nom it's going to get here, which you do see in a lot of technical awards. So I'm very much leaning towards Avatar: Fire and Ash. Next up is Best Film Editing, and the nominations for that are F1, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. This is kind of a tough one. I'm very much torn between Marty Supreme and One Battle After Another. And leaning a little bit more towards Sentimental Value, just because I think the prologue for that film in particular is so perfectly edited. It's timed in just the right way to kind of like make you care about this family and a house, that I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards that. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be Marty Supreme, just because Safdie's editing is always like very, very engaging, very intense, and always keeps you wrapped up within it. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards Marty Supreme. Although Sentimental Value is a top one there. I would be very excited if Sentimental Value won for that as well. Although, like I said, it's probably going to be a battle between Marty Supreme and One Battle After Another, and I much prefer Marty Supreme. Next up is Best Costume Design, and the nominations are Avatar: Fire and Ash, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, and Sinners. A little odd that Avatar: Fire and Ash got in there. This is a category where this is where I think it's kind of going to be like an easy sweep for something like Frankenstein. I very much think that Frankenstein is probably going to take home a lot of technical awards, and I think costume is definitely going to be one of them. In particular, I really loved Mia Goth's dress. Her dresses in that film, just like the way they look, the patterns they have, just the little details in them, that alone made me like gravitate towards that for best costume easily, and I think it probably has the best chance there. So yeah, among all these, Frankenstein is my choice for best costume. Up next is best makeup and hairstyling, and the nominations are Frankenstein, Kokuo, Sinners, The Smashing Machine, and The Ugly Stepsister. I am easily leaning towards Frankenstein. I think just, making that monster look compelling and grotesque at the same time. I think Guillermo del Toro's film is just fascinating on that level alone, that's easily my pick, and I think it's a pretty decent lock for best makeup and hairstyling. Now, the one dark horse here that I think might be the most impressive is if The Ugly Stepsister wins. Because, oh my god, like, if we're just going on like a level of horror, I mean, we have Frankenstein, we have Sinners, and we have The Ugly Stepsister. The details that went into The Ugly Stepsister are very wince-worthy. Like, there's, oh my god, the scene where they are sewing on her eyelashes is just so grotesque, and the way that they kind of like make her look a little bit disfigured and like try to fix her and end up making her look more grotesque, especially with like her chopped off toes and stuff like that. That is really impressive. That might be very very exciting to see if that would win for best makeup and hairstyling, but I think it's pretty much going to be Frankenstein. Bavalin says, please let The Ugly Stepsister win, if only because it may lead more people to watch it. Oh, for sure. I'm impressed that it got nominated. The fact that it even got nominated means a lot of people are going to go watch it. And I think a lot of people, if people were willing to go and watch something like The Substance, I think they'd very much go and watch The Ugly Stepsister. Like, if they're willing to put up with body horror, I will say The Ugly Stepsister is a lot more extreme than The Substance, especially for the scene with the tapeworm and the nose scene and the eyelids. Oh god, there's some. I'll let you guys in on. I'll let you all in a little my one Achilles heel here. I have a weakness, and I think it might be because of my oculars, but I have a weakness for anything involving eyes in horror. Like, that always grosses me out. Anytime you touch the eyes or poke them or have like a little needle around them, that always kind of like grosses me out and just makes me want to like peel myself away from the screen. so quickly. And there's quite a bit of that in The Ugly Stepsister. Also in Send Help, for those who are wondering. That's what made me very grossed out with that film. But yeah, it would be cool to see The Ugly Stepsister win, if only so, yeah, more people check it out. But the fact that it's nominated, and just, hearing it being read aloud at the ceremony, that's going to be really cool. But yeah, I think Frankenstein kind of has this one locked. I think that's an easy choice. And I think for a few of these categories, it's very going to be very predictable. Where it's like usually I don't do locks. I mostly just talk about the ones that I love. There are some films that I can pretty much assure you are going to win in certain categories, and I think for sure Frankenstein is probably going to win for hair and makeup. All right. So this is a little bit more of a wild card here. We have Best Cinematography, and the nominations are Frankenstein, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Train Dreams. This is a really tough one. And I don't just mean that in terms of like picking a lock. I mean just like personally trying to pick one that I think is the best. And God, it's so hard to pick. I am kind of leaning more towards One Battle After Another. I think for just the enormity that Paul Thomas Anderson had to put into a lot of these scenes that required a lot of thought just for the scale of what they were going to do. Like, not even just like the rolling hills, but like the city scenes where they're jumping through roofs and there's protests in the streets, and now they had to coordinate the the immigrants who go into hiding, and framing it all in a way where you're just kind of like following it along, and making it look remarkable. Like just the vast shots during like the scene that I showcased here with Chase Infinity, where she's almost about to get assassinated. That scene alone is just remarkable. It felt like maybe it's just because of the setting, but I got like some shades of No Country for Old Men and how it was kind of shot. So yeah, I really do like the cinematography in One Battle After Another, and that's probably my choice here. And it probably will win for that category as well. Although I would say Train Dreams was just beautiful. It's a remarkable, especially for being shot in 4:3, and for just depicting this very Americana story. I think is mesmerizing. It's very much the dark horse here. I think Train Dreams has the least likely chance of winning, but I would like to see it. But yeah, if I had to choose one, I'd have to go with One Battle After Another. Oh, let's see. Baval 11 says so. Not a Lucci. Not a Fulci fan. Here's the thing. I'm kind of okay with like Fulci's films only because they have once you kind of get used to it, I think the dated nature of his effects, I think, makes me kind of like a little bit more okay with them. Don't get me wrong, they still make me wince, they still make me grossed out, but they do make me laugh a little bit as I watch them, because I can kind of see how the effect is done. It's like, oh, I can see. I think once you know how they're done a little bit more, it does like kind of demystify it a little bit and makes you a little less scared and a little less grossed out, and it does to a point. To a point where I'd be like, okay, it's kind of gross. Okay, they're holding on this shot really long. Please cut away. Fulci, cut away, please. Like, okay, it was kind of hard for me to get through some of the scenes in was it the New York slasher one, where the killer has like the duck voice. It's a little bit hard to get through some of those scenes because they're pretty good with the effects. But I was willing to put up with it because there are some really good scenes, especially the psychosexual stuff in that film is actually really good. So I'm willing to face my fears on that front. Next up, we have production design, and the nominations are Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, and Sinners. Again, I think this my choice is Frankenstein. I think just the amount of depth that Guillermo del Toro put into his sets to make them look grand and mysterious and scary all at the same time, while feeling like this kind of almost like otherworldly fantasy. That alone makes me choose Frankenstein. And honestly, it probably will. I would be very much okay with with Sinners taking it as well, because just oh my goodness, the little details like in the shack and the juke joint they set up, and the how they staged like the whole musical sequence in there of like the different generations of music. It's just remarkable. So a lot of strong choices here, but I'm leaning towards Frankenstein. And if I had to like pick what is going to end up winning it's probably going to be Frankenstein. Just remarkable production. But like I said, technicalities. It's going to win a lot of technical stuff. Although this is where I kind of diverge a little bit. So for best sound, they have F1, Frankenstein, One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Surratt. I am actually going to lean towards Surratt on this one. Now, now a few people haven't seen this film, and here's like a brief rundown of it. The film is about a man and a young boy traveling through the desert with a bunch of ravers trying to track down a woman while basically a new world war is starting up all around them. And they just traverse the desert while trying to avoid all the dangers and the environmental dangers and the threat of war, and how it just kind of like brutalizes them while they try to just make their way through all these different areas while just embracing this electronic trance music the whole time. And I think that just like the reliance on sound there and how it plays like such a pivotal role, and how your eyes are transfixed, especially because like there's a lot of like very grim stuff that happens almost kind of like off camera and relies a lot on the sound to kind of make you just pay attention and be very concerned for these characters, where you're always intensely listening to it. One of the most like horrific scenes is the climax of the film, where they stumble into a landmine field and they try to figure out a way to traverse it. And it is just, it's so brutal, intense, and you need like just the right, crafting of sound to make that work. And that's why I really like Surratt. I don't think it'll win. It would be really fun to see it win, but if I had to choose one that'll probably be a lock, probably either Sinners or Frankenstein. I'm kind of leaning more between the two. Although maybe I'm leaning a little bit more towards One Battle After Another. I think F1 is for sure probably like the darkest horse here, but a little bit more than Surratt. I think F1 and Surratt are kind of in the same category. But yeah, I really loved the sound work in Surratt. So if you have not seen it, be sure to go check it out. Much like The Ugly Stepsister. Is it really Frankenstein? Well, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I just, there's something about it. I think they might lean more towards sound there. Although One Battle After Another, yeah, it might. I don't know. I almost have a feeling like Frankenstein is going to like sweep a lot of the technical awards, One Battle After Another might. I feel like there are some categories it's going to do better than in others. And I feel like cinematography might be one of them. All right, next up, we have a new category this year. This is a brand new one. This is Best Casting. I was kind of hoping we'd have Best Stunts, because we really need that one, but whatever. I mean, Best Casting is actually in a lot of my critic voting groups anyway, so at least it's here. So this is an interesting category. So the nominations are Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, and Sinners. I am actually going to lean towards Sinners on this one. I think this is a case where I think, even though it's not an ensemble casting here, I really do think you have to take in an ensemble as a whole for this category. And this is where I think Sinners actually topples here. I think its main competition is going to be One Battle After Another. But I think Sinners is going to win this one just because, yeah, you make the controversial choice to have Michael B. Jordan playing two characters, and he nails it. And then you have so many other characters here who just have this passion and this drive and flaws, and they're damn sexy in a lot of the scenes where they're just so passionate for each other. Not to mention Delroy Lindo is just eating every scene that he has in this film. In fact, I would say on those casting choices alone, of just Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo. Don't get me wrong, like Numi Masaka, fantastic in this film as well. But yeah, just on those two alone, I would say Sinners should win for casting here. The Secret Agent is very much going to be a dark horse here. It would be fun to see that win. But I think it's probably going to be between one battle after another in Sinners, and I think it's too tough to say, too close to call. But my gut for what I say is the best one here. I say Sinners. Sinners had the best casting. And now we're getting into a little bit more of a more complicated one here with the text I had to include. So for best original song, we have Dear Me from Dionne Warren's Relentless, which is very somewhat small music documentary that I don't think many people saw. But of course, everyone did see K-pop Demon Hunters, so of course Golden gets nominated. Then there's I Lied to You from Sinners, Sweet Dreams of Joy from Viva Verde, and Train Dreams from Train Dreams. I think, it doesn't take a genius to see which one's probably going to win here. It's usually whatever is the big earworm of the season, and that's K-pop Demon Hunters. So, honestly, this is going to be a battle between K-pop Demon Hunters and Sinners, and I think it's going to win here. This is going to... Although I was surprised, only one got through for the nominations. Usually if a film has a lot of memorable music, there's at least, two, as with Wicked last year. But there's only one here, but I feel like it'll probably win in that category. And for as much as I like that song, I feel like I Lied to You just really stuck with me more. So I think yeah, I Lied to You is probably my favorite choice here among all these. Although Train Dreams is very sweet. What do we got in the chat here? No, I think it should win. You're right, but PTA has big momentum this year. I think you're kind of right. I mean, it does. I think it definitely has pull for the bigger categories. I think in the technical categories, it might get shut out by Frankenstein and Sinners in a few categories. I think for sure it's going to win in the big stuff. For sure. Don't get me wrong, it has a lot of momentum that it's probably going to win in some of the bigger categories. But I don't think it's going to be as big a sweep as a lot of people think it is. I think it's going to clear some big ones, but not as many as a lot of people think. All right, next up is Best Original Score, and we have Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Sinners. This is a little bit of a tough one, but I'm torn between Frankenstein and Sinners, just because I think Frankenstein is really really great thematic music, but honestly I'm leaning more towards Sinners, just because the music in that film played such a pivotal role in being an essential part of art trying to save a community and how it can be co-opted. And if that didn't work, nothing in the film would work. So my choice for best original score is Sinners, and I think for a lot of people it'll probably win on that level, just because I think the music in that film is so memorable. So I'm pulling for Sinners in that category. Next up is Best International Film, and this is where we get into a really tough category because I'm in love with all of these films. So the nominations are It Was Just an Accident, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Surat, and The Voice of Hindra Jha. All fantastic films, but if I really had to choose one, I got to go with The Secret Agent. The Secret Agent it feels resonant, it feels thrilling, it feels unpredictable, it's bizarre, it's bonkers at times, and just has such a wide range of just thrilling and emotional states that just enraptured me throughout. So yeah, The Secret Agent is my choice here. I think for sure the one that's probably going to win here, just because it has the most nominations outside of this category, is going to be Sentimental Value. It's either going to be Sentimental Value or a more interesting choice, I think, would be, as kind of the underdog here, would be the Voice of Rin Hijab, which, if you have not seen this film, it's a gut-wrenching film, because it's all about the the efforts in Gaza to save this little girl who was trapped in a car, um, that was murdered by the assaults from Israel, and they use the real recordings. Like they dramatize all the people surrounding the event, like how they try to get in touch with forces to get in there and save the day. But all the audio from the little girl, that's real in the film. All of it is 100% real, and it's a tough watch, but I think it does a great job just highlighting the just the wealth of emotions that went from the people behind the scenes trying to find a way to save this person failing. Which it would be very fascinating to see that film win just for the speech alone. But and it's, for as much as I love that film, like The Secret Agent, that is the one that's topping it for me here. But but all these, especially like It Was Just an Accident, which taps into a trauma a lot. Surat is just like a very thrilling and very surprising film at times. And Sentimental Value is just another film that I love as well. Like Sentimental Value is just a fascinating character drama that has a warmth to it as well. In the Floyd again says, the fact that I haven't seen any of these saddens me. Well, this is your chance. This is a great thing about talking about the awards, stuff like that. This is your chance to check out these films, because I'll tell you, all these films right here, fantastic. You can't go wrong with any of them. Check them all out. Bavalim says, the voice of Hind Rajab broke me. I had no idea how anyone can watch it and not break. Yeah, I especially love the little dashes of extra realism that they put in the film, because there are a few scenes where they actually do incorporate the filmed footage of the actual center where they were talking to the little girl, and they almost kind of like place it side by side, like they have somebody recording it, and you see like the dramatization in the background, and then the actual footage in the foreground, and you look at that, you're just like, oh my god, this is it's like a brief reminder, like, no, you are not watching something that's fictionalized here. This is real. This really happened, and it breaks you. Yeah, I don't know how anyone could get through that film and not like break down. Marcus Delacroix says, which order would you recommend watching them? Well, from top to bottom of my favorites in here, I would say The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, It Was Just an Accident, The Voice of Hind Rajab, and Surat. I think that's the order that I would place them in. And it's not even like best to worst. It's just like which one resonated the most, because these are all fantastic films. Yeah, like Secret Agent is top of my list there. All right. So yeah, and that's Secret Agent's my choice there. Now we get to one that I think more people will be a little bit more versed in. That's Best Animated Film. And our nominations are Arco, Elio, K-Pop Demon Hunters, Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, and Zootopia 2. Now, this is an easy lock. It's K-Pop Demon Hunters. It's definitely going to win. If you need to put money on anything, that's the one that's going to win in this category. But personally, the film that I think is the best among all these is Little Amelie or The Character of Rain. And what I love so much about this film is that it treats the perspective of a very young girl with an imagination, but also a deep maturity about the world that was very refreshing. That doesn't try to like soften childhood or perceptions of mortality, and addressing a very complicated situation as this little girl born through a Belgian family growing up in Japan is a very interesting setting. And I think the way that it kind of like taps into like the historical trauma that she learns about as she goes about her day in Japan, I think is fascinating. The animation is colorful and imaginative, and just a remarkable story that like treats kids with an urgency. And don't get me wrong, there is stuff like that in Arco and Elio, but I think Little Amelie actually has a little bit more gusto to delve into much darker material without softening it all that much. So, yeah, the K-pop Demon Hunter is probably the lock here, but my choice for the best one among all these is Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain. So if you haven't seen, and I imagine a lot of people haven't seen it. I mean, Arco just expanded this weekend, so a lot of people are going to be watching that film for the first time. But yeah, Little Amelie is my choice in this category. Next up is Best Adapted Screenplay, and the nominations are Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Train Dreams. I'm very conflicted on this, but you know what? I think this is, I'm kind of leaning more towards Frankenstein on this one. I think it's, I was actually, no. Here's the thing. I'm fluctuating between Frankenstein and One Battle After Another, but the more I think about it, and I've kind of flip-flopped back on this a few times, I'm going to call it right here. I'm going to say One Battle After Another. Just because I love Thomas Pynchon's writing, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson approached it in a very thoughtful way while still making it his own film. And if you've ever read Pynchon's novels, they're madness. They're all over the place. They're sporadic. They go into all these weird territories, and I think Anderson's script does a pretty good job getting you there and trying to evoke a lot of what makes Pynchon's novels so exciting. So, yeah, I'm going with One Battle After Another in this category. In terms of what I think will win, hard to say. I think you might be right here on this. I think One Battle After Another might take it home. All right. So then we have Best Original Screenplay. And our nominations are Blue Moon, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. And I think Sinners probably has a very good shot at taking this one home. Just because the whole idea of how to of setting up this story about these very interesting characters, the way that it develops them all before the vampires even show up, I think it's fascinating storytelling. And just the way that it harps on the power of music, I think it's such a powerful narrative for stressing the necessity and the defense that can be mounted with art, that it rang true for me. In terms of what will win, it's kind of a toss-up here. I think Sinners has a really good shot, but I don't know. I think I'm kind of between Sentimental Value and Marty Supreme here. The fun dark horse here would be It Was Just an Accident, and I would actually really love if only because I think this might be the only chance that Jafar Panahi's film might actually win one, that I would kind of like to see It Was Just an Accident win. Methods World says, Mark, what February releases are you looking forward to? The Bride looks fun. I'd be up for that. the Bride, and oh god, there was another one. Was it the Moment? I'm actually pretty excited for as well. God, there was one. There's a lot that's coming out on Valentine's Day this year, which are just fascinating. But Wuthering Heights looks pretty cool. I'm interested to see how erotic they can get with it. Just because I think that's probably one of the more unique films looking forward. The Bride I do expect to be fun. It looks fun. It'll probably be pretty good. It might be a little bit of a disappointment, but to see a highly erotically charged version of a very familiar story, I think is pretty exciting. So I'm very excited. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in February. So those are probably my top three. There's The Moment, The Bride, and Wuthering Heights. Because I'm pretty sure Wuthering Heights is coming out this February. I don't know why it wouldn't. I think it'd be perfect timing for it. Yeah, very much looking forward to it. So where was I? Oh yeah, Sinners. Well, is my pick for best original screenplay. Best supporting actress. Now we're getting to the ones. Very excited for the new Gordon Verbinski. Oh yeah, that's right. It's got a new one. Best supporting actress. We have Elle Fanning for Sentimental Value. Inga Itzbader-Elias for Sentimental Value, Amy Madigan for Weapons, Wumi Masako for Sinners, and Teyana Taylor for One Battle After Another. I am really pulling for Amy Madigan here. I think for a character who doesn't show up until about halfway through Weapons, and you never take your eyes off her, and she just became such a horror icon. That's an easy pick. It's an easy choice there. Outside of that, I would probably say she might actually have a shot at getting it, but I would say under that, probably the runner-up for me would probably be Wumi Masako for Sinners, just because. I mean, like, oh my god, like you look at like I specifically wanted to get that shot of her shack when she has that very like sexually charged moment. Like, oh my god, the tension that she brings in that scene is just so beautiful that I loved the hell out of that. And the more that she's present in a film that's already like wall to wall sexiness, like that one scene alone is probably. And this is a film where you have people just pretty much almost like having an orgasm on the stage. And here she is in this one scene where the sexiest scene is in this like shack by the swamp. And it works so well because of her performance. So yeah, that'd be my runner up. But yeah, Amy Madigan's for Weapons. Masaku's a fantastic. Oh, for sure. Methods World says, I'd love to see Madigan win and get a little late career boost. Oh yeah. Well, she already has a boost, right? I think because she is working on something right now. So I think a lot of people are gonna like sit up and take notice. So, like regardless of if she wins or not, like she's already gotten the boost. Everybody knows her. Everybody knows this role. Everyone can't wait to see what she does next. So she's already there. I mean, she's already taken off. Everyone has already fallen in love with her all over again, and if she if she just wins the Oscar, then that's just like the cherry on top at this point, you know. Honestly, I'm rooting for Inga Itzbader. She was really good too, yeah. And I thought she was kind of gonna be kind of more of like the odd duck out because like Sentimental Value had fantastic casting, and I thought she was kind of gonna not have as much depth, especially for not being as involved with her father as you know, compared to like Renata Rinsvy's character. But she wasn't. She actually does have a pretty good placement here, and like she does have as much depth, if not more so than Renata Rinsvy in this film. And I guess like they're very much like, I mean, that's like the story here. It's like they see themselves as equals, and they are on an acting level. So yeah, I'd like to see her win too. These are all like, I guess I should preface this by saying, outside of like a few films, there's nothing that I'm that worried about winning. Where there's no like Amelia Perez or like The Green Book this year. There's no film like that where like, oh, please don't win, please don't win. There's no film I'm worried about having that happen. So. Dr. Eternity says, regardless if Wunmi Masako wins, I would not be upset. She was great too. Oh, for sure. Methods World says, yeah, I think with Madigan, it's more of what she wants to do rather than what she gets offered. She's got the ability to choose at this point. Oh, for sure. She absolutely does. Oh, it'll be exciting to see that. More horror at the Oscars. All right. So for Best Supporting Actor, we have Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another. Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein, Delroy Lindo for Sinners, Sean Penn for One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value. And here's the thing, I would have gone with Stellan Skarsgård. He would have been my top choice in this category, but then in comes Delroy Lindo. It's like, okay, I have to give it up to Lindo. He made that film work. He steals every scene that he is in Sinners. When he's drinking up a storm. When he's like sassing back, he gives the funniest lines in the film. When he's distracting the vampires with blood, he doesn't just give a little blood. He makes a goddamn feast out of his arm in that film. He is having too much fun in that movie, and he makes it work so well. So yeah, that's my choice for Best Supporting Actor. But if I had to pick what is probably going to be like the top ones here, it's probably going to be between Sean Penn and Stellan Skarsgård and likely it's going to be more for Skarsgård. Let's see here. Med's World says only one I wouldn't care to see win would be F1. Yeah, same. Same for F1, and to a certain degree, I'm not as keen on Begonia being nominated. I don't hate Begonia, but it's not up there with Lanthimos's other films. I felt like it was a much weaker film that I wouldn't love as. But yeah, like F1 is a little bit lower on that totem. But it's a competent film. I don't hate F1. I don't hate Begonia, but I don't feel like they're the best. They're the better films this year. Like they're competent, they're fine, but they're not the directors at their best. Another World says he's one of the best Riggin actors. Yeah. But which one? Delroy Lindo or sounds good? I mean, they're all pretty good here, you know. Dr. Eternal said, I rewatched it recently, and I still can't believe Delroy Lindo was not nominated or won for Malcolm X. Hell, yeah. It was, yeah, man. There was so much that was snubbed with Malcolm X for the Oscars there. Yeah. Fantastic film, though. My God. The fact that it took Spike Lee that long to win an Academy Award for Black Klansman. But then it happened, you know. Okay. Most of them really, but Delroy in particular. Oh yeah, Delroy Lindo's great. Every role he's in. Oh my God, the Five Bloods, loved him in. Oh, fantastic actor. All right, so moving on to Best Actress, we have Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, Kate Hudson in Song Sung Blue, Renata Rinsby in Sentimental Value, and Emma Stone in Begonia. I really liked Jessie Buckley, and I think for sure she's probably going to walk away with the award for her role in Hamnet. She made that role work. But personally, my favorite choice here is Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, just because that entire film relies on her paranoia, her desperation, her joy, her anxiety. If you don't feel like you're just as on pins and needles as she is in those scenes, the film wouldn't work. Especially for a lot of the extreme close-ups they have on her face. Like, you have to believe that performance. You have to believe that this woman's life is being destroyed on every front around her and feel that same anxiety. And I think she pulled that off with flying colors here. So that's my choice for best actress. Although it's probably going to go to Jessie Buckley, and probably deservedly so. She is the best part of Hamnet. She does a really good job, especially next to Paul Mescal, who Mescal's fine in the film, but he's usually always pretty good. Jessie Buckley was kind of a bit more of a surprise here for just how well she worked here. I expect her to do good, but she did really fantastic in this film. So, but still, I'm going with Rose Byrne. That's my favorite choice there for what I think should win, not which one will win. Buckley will probably win. All right, Best Actor. So we have Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another, Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon, Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, and Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent. You know, this is a very tough one. Oh my, so many. I know it's going to go to Timothée Chalamet, and I think this is kind of like going to affect how I choose in this category, because I really did like Chalamet's performance, but honestly, for pulling double duty, Michael B. Jordan, I have to go with like him on Sinners for this. Although I'm kind of split between Jordan and Moura, just because like Moura also is required to have like a lot of depth for a film that is meant to go off beat at times. And he has to maintain like the stern focus throughout that. I really love his performance. But as a whole, I think Michael B. Jordan has like a lot of depth in Sinners there, especially for pulling off two different roles. Even though they're identical brothers. But yeah, it's stacked here. But my choice, I think, for my favorite is probably Michael B. Jordan for Sinners. And Timothée Chalamet, I think, is a lock at this point. He's going to win this one. Let's see. Dr. Attorney says, I'm so happy Wagner Moura got nominated after he won a Cannes. Yeah. I am too. I just want to say I'm very like Secret Agent was like number 2 on my list for the top 10 films of the year, and I'm so glad to see it's not being ignored. Just because the director who previously directed Bacurau, which was just as bonkers and didn't get like any awards attention, which I was so sad about. Now he's actually getting, the attention he deserves with The Secret Agent, and I couldn't be more happy for him. It's like, because yeah, he's a wild, unexpected a director who has a lot of like unexpected aspects in his filmmaking, and it's always exciting because you never know where it's going, and it takes you in some fantastic and wild directions. So, very happy that to see so many nominations for that film. Rodian T says 5 minutes in, and I forgot Michael B. Jordan was acting against himself. You do, because like I think well for one, having like different attire helps, so you're not seeing them as twins, but yeah, like the performance is so good. I think to pull that off really well, where you're not just like looking at like a split screen and you're actually seeing like two performers that believably could be brothers. It's no easy task. And I think, for one, yeah, Ryan Coogler directing them is essential to it. But Michael B. Jordan's performance is also crucial to that as well. And if an actor can't make it work, it doesn't work. And it works incredibly well. So, and it is a very tough category. Methods World says, I wish we had some Secret Agent showtimes here. Yeah, I wish it did expand a little bit into a few theaters a few weeks ago, but very, very limited release, unfortunately. I hope it gets, if it's not already, it should be like on some VOD service, because everyone should see this film. They should have like I think some theaters do that where they have like a Best Picture, like a festival, where they say like, oh, here, come to our theater and watch every single film up for Best Picture so that you're up to date. I think some theaters do that. So if you keep an eye on some of the bigger theaters as we get closer to award season, well, as we get closer to the Oscar ceremony, you'll probably see like a listing of all like the Best Picture nominations showing at some theaters. There should be at least. I think like Imagine for sure does that, and maybe AMC. I keep more track of Imagine than I do AMC because I like their theaters more, but yeah, if you look around, you could probably find some showing of it. Get people more to say, oh, wrong one there. All right, coming to the end of the line here. Best Director, we have Chloe Zhao for Hamnet, Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme, Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, Joaquin Trier for Sentimental Value, and Ryan Coogler for Sinners. Again, another stacked category, really hard to pick here. Oh god. And I already like made some choices for what I thought was the best, and I'm still looking at these nominations and going, god, do I really want to? Oh, I was leaning between Safdie and Anderson for a while, and I think it's tough, but I'm leaning more towards Paul Thomas Anderson. Just because I think being able to nail so many offbeat moments, I think, and evoke like just the right amount of tension, I think Paul Thomas Anderson does that really well in One Battle After Another. That I kind of got to go with that. Like there is, like, don't get me wrong, a lot of tension to Marty Supreme, but I think that mostly relies just on the chaos that Josh Safdie just kind of throws these characters into, and just kind of assembles it around it more, around the chaos of like bathtubs falling through ceilings, or escaping the cops, or a shootout that goes awry, which is good, but it always just feels like just mounting chaos. Paul Thomas Anderson film actually feels like it's going through a whole bunch of different wild off-key beats that is a little bit unpredictable in the nature of it. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards Paul Thomas Anderson as that's my choice for Best Director, and it probably will win now that I think about it. Sinners for the combination of music and horror. Yeah, I was debating on that as well. That Ryan Coogler might have a shot at this category as well. Yeah, the direction of the musical sequence in particular, I think was fascinating. But it's yeah, like I said, this is really tough. This is stacked. There's not a film in here where I'd be like no, this shouldn't win. It's like because I do like the meditative direction of Chloe Zhao with Hamnet and focus on the existential, and Joachim Trier is focusing on a family that can only connect through art and how they obsess over a house of all things to kind of encapsulate their feelings. And then just Ryan Coogler's mixture of like the musical and the fantastical, and Marty Supreme's just bizarre nature of like cutting between sperm and ping pong balls is all fascinating. But just, it's all great stuff. But if I have to pick one, it's probably going to be Paul Thomas Anderson. And it wasn't an easy conclusion that I came to. And speaking of tough calls, here's like the even tougher, the big one, the biggest one of them all. Oh boy, here I'm gonna get myself right in the middle here. Okay, so best picture we have Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. With the exception of Begonia and F1, which I didn't hate, they're fine films, just not the greatest films. Not a bad film in here. I couldn't go wrong with any of these. These are all pretty good films. But of course, we got to pick one. And if I had to pick one, this might surprise some people, but considering everything in all of these films, my top choice is Sinners. And that might come as a surprise because my top 10 list, I did rank Sinners just below One Battle After Another and The Secret Agent. I placed those higher. But I think in terms of everything that Sinners encapsulates, from its production, what it's... Because I know that like One Battle After Another is probably going to be the film that's going to win this category. And likely so, because it's probably going to be win for being the most resonant. You know, it's a very modern story, especially for Paul Thomas Anderson, that relates to a lot of current events regarding immigration, and just authoritarianism and racism and fascism, that I feel like it's the most resonant. But Sinners, I think, does kind of the same thing, even though it's like meant to be more of a period piece. But like, if One Battle After Another was focusing on that authoritarianism being a modern concern, Sinners seems to stress that it was always a concern. It was always present within, you know, this idealization of Americana that has always like lurked under the surface. And it's a little bit more, I don't want to say that this is like the key factor, but there's a more subtle nature to how it focuses on like the cultural erasure that comes through with racism, that has a little bit more, just a little bit more depth than One Battle After Another. That made me like it a little bit more for like that potent resonance, which made me kind of gravitate to it. Because like I said, I did rank One Battle After Another just above Sinners, and The Secret Agent I did rank just above that, just because I think those did a great job focusing on authoritarianism. But when I think about it more as a whole, and more importantly, as a film I'd like to see win, just for everything that it has, I would like to see Sinners win, just to see the response, and just, you know, what more could be done with, you know, giving Ryan Coogler more budgets to make something more fascinating. Because Paul Thomas Anderson will always be making, you know, very, very exciting thrillers like this. Ryan Coogler, we don't see as much wild stuff like this out of him, and I would like to see more. I want to see, like, Paul Thomas Anderson, he'll always be there. He'll always keep making like really cool films, and he's already gotten lots of nominations and plenty of accolades for this stuff. That's why I would really like to see Sinners win in this category. Not as like a pity win, but as like a win that I think is going to resonate a lot more with the way that people look at this film, because I think there's a lot more going on under the surface as opposed to One Battle After Another, where it's overt. Like the fascism and the racism and the sexism, like it's all on top and it's overt. You can see it all there, present, can't mistake it. Sinners has a little bit more where, like, if you watch it again, you start noticing a lot of, you know, stuff that you didn't before. Like you might take a little bit notice of how of like how like the Irish kind of like try to manipulate the black community for being like in a similar position, and how that kind of resonates, like, because then you want to look at more historical aspects of where there might be a lot more bleed over, and fascinating on that degree, because like One Battle After Another is very easy to read, and I'm glad it is. There's no mistaking that. But Sinners, I felt, had just a little bit more depth to it that I would like to see that win for Best Picture. So, and like I said, it's fluctuating because it's very fluctuating, because a lot of these are fantastic films that I honestly wouldn't be mad if Train Dreams won. That'd be incredible. If it probably won't happen, but it'd be remarkable. But yeah, Sinners is my top pick. Bilal 11 says Sinners was a much more audacious film. Oh, for sure. Shadow Talk says One Battle After Another has so many great acting performances, hard to beat. Yeah, very good cast. It might win for best casting. It has a chance, which is why it's kind of fluctuating on this too. Like there are a few like technical locks that I said earlier. Like I think for sure, Frankenstein will probably win a lot of the technical awards, like production design and costume, and hair and makeup for sure. But K-pop Demon Hunters won for animated film. But when it comes to the tap cut, like I think for sure it's probably going to be One Battle After Another for Best Picture, and it's probably going to be Timothée Chalamet for Best Actor, and it's definitely going to be Jessie Buckley for Best Actress. Those are like the easy ones here. But in terms like on a personal level, it's more complicated than that. Like there are a few categories just like, okay, that's an easy one. Like with production, it's like, yeah, Frankenstein, it's got to win. But yeah, with a lot of these Best Picture ones, it's very tough. But yeah, those are my choices for the best films of the Oscar nominations and what I think should win. Now, which ones will win? Well, we're gonna have to see in March, where the Oscar ceremony will be held. And I will be watching it live, and I will be streaming it here on this channel. So if you'd like to watch along with us, and I might even have some guests on, we'll have our own little digital red carpet. That sounds wrong. Got to find a different wording for that. We'll make an event out of it. It's always fun to like watch the Oscars on stream. So I did it last year. It was a lot of fun, and we're gonna do it again this year. And we'll probably use the same graphics that I had up there. Okay, so. Bit of a long stream. Let's get a quick wrap up of the reviews from this stream. I reviewed Send Help, the latest horror film from Sam Raimi with Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien, in a fantastically gory, giddy, and gross film about two people trying to survive and recognizing the class divide between them. I didn't think it would work. It feels like an EC comic short story that couldn't really work for a feature film, but Raimi proved me wrong by making for a wholly entertaining, exciting, absurd, and gross horror film. A lot of fun. I reviewed Shelter, the latest film from Jason Statham, an action thriller which starts off with an interesting premise of a silent man residing in a lighthouse, but unfortunately he leaves the lighthouse and it just becomes typical action thriller spy cliches that just really didn't work for me, and it just became a routine action picture, which it really shouldn't have been for the chance it had to do something different. And I reviewed Magellan, a demystification of Ferdinand Magellan's expedition that tries to paint him as more of an egotistical man, where his adventure was not all that exciting or even just spiritually fulfilling. It just became a draining experience. It does toy a bit with history, but if you're willing to accept that, it's a pretty damn good film, although it is very slow paced. I should mention that as well. It's very much a slow burn film. So among all those films, I would recommend Send Help and Magellan. And likely you'll probably be able to find a theater with Send Help more than you will with Magellan, which is good. I mean, well, it's not great. You should get a chance to see Magellan, but if you're in the mood for horror, very gross horror, and some Sam Raimi horror, sure, check out Send Help. So good stuff. Check out there. Let's see, read through some of the chat here. Memphis World says, Mark, do you have a favorite Catherine O'Hara performance? Ooh, that is a good question. I mean, it's tough to beat Beetlejuice. I mean, like don't get me wrong, she has like an amazing presence in the Home Alone movies, but I mean, like her role in Schitt's Creek was great, but that's a TV show. I mean, that's that's about what you expect. I will say, like probably maybe Beetlejuice. I know that's the easy answer. There's a lot more to go through. I will say probably one of the most fascinating roles from her was her role in Argyle. Argyle is not a good movie, but I did think it was really funny that they tried to stage her as a spy who was secretly British. So I got to hear Catherine O'Hara trying a British accent, and it was pretty funny. It was dumb, but it was pretty funny, and I got to admire her commitment to that bit. Shadow Sock says, "Do you think Benicio del Toro has a chance more than Sean Penn?" Unfortunately, I don't think I would like to see him win. I think he has like a more interesting kind of like casual performance than Sean Penn. Um, but I think Sean might actually have an edge over him. Unfortunately, I would like to see him win though. That would be a nice shock for the night. I'm looking forward to Oscar night to see if there's any like shocks like that. So. Rhodey and Tree said she had a minor role in 6 Feet Under, and she stole everything. Oh, was she in 6 Feet Under? I'll be honest, I've never watched that show. Maybe I should. But although to watch a show like 6 Feet Under after, I might have to wait a little bit first. Oh yeah, so Shadow Talks also mentioned that he loved The Secret Agent, which is great. I'm glad more people are taking notice of this film. Baval 11 said F1 should win Best Film. Said nobody ever. Yeah, it's not winning. I am frustrated though. Like, why is F1 and Begonia in here? There was a chance. You know for sure if F1 wasn't nominated, like the other nomination in there would be it was just an accident. Hell, it should have been in there. It was just an accident. It should have been nominated for Best Picture. It did get more awards than I expected, award nominations, but it should be up for Best Picture as well. It's a damn good movie. Although if I had it my way, Resurrection would be in every category, which it should be. But sadly isn't. Yeah, but that's where we go. There are some years where my favorite film, my number one film, actually doesn't end up being top of the list. In case of 2020, my number one film was Bacurau, from the director of The Secret Agent. Didn't get any awards wins, so there you go. F1 feels like a box office award. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that whole shtick. Win for box office. So those are the reviews, and those are my picks for what are the best films of the award nominations. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest reviews of the new movies coming out the rest of the year, be sure that you subscribe to stay up to date, and be sure to like this video so that more people know about Magellan and The Secret Agent. I mean, they probably do from the nominations, but I'm still going to boast more about that film as well to make sure people are expanding their palettes and not just watching the same mainstream stuff over and over again. So, yeah, thanks for everyone stopping by the stream to check out the reviews. If you'd like to support the channel, I have a Patreon below, which gives you early access to some of the video essays I've been working on, and some books that I'm working on. I'm working on a book of banned movies, and I just recently posted an entry on All Quiet on the Western Front, so you can read the book as I'm writing it. And once it's finished, all the patrons who are under the $3 tier will get a digital copy that they can watch on their own. Or read. It's a book. Can't watch a book. And the $15 tier will actually get a physical copy of the book, which in some cases is actually cheaper than buying the book itself. So you'll be getting a deal if you go under the $15 tier. And not to mention, if you do that as well, like before the book is even finished, you will actually get a copy of my book on the history of Saturday morning cartoons and serials. So good deals there. And you can support it, and you can support the channel, and you'll get early access to some of the other videos. So thank you so much to everyone for stopping by. Thank you, Methods World. Thank you, Dr. Eternity, for Yeah, yeah, yeah. Try to do top tier film journalism here, which is I don't even think I do like the greatest film journalism. It's more genuine, I guess. But I think that's what people value a lot. So I'm very grateful for y'all for stopping by. Enjoy it. Enjoy talking about movies, and I'll be back in about 2 weeks, and we'll have some new films to talk about. I'm not sure which ones we'll talk about. It depends on which ones we get screeners for, but I know for sure one film we will talk about is a small horror film called Dolly. You might have heard of this film. It's a Shudder production, and I will be talking about it in about 2 weeks. So until next time, I'll see you then. Go watch some of the award nominations. If you haven't seen like It Was Just an Accident or The Secret Agent, go check them out. They're fantastic films. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.